I really want to ask you about immigration because obviously it's a massive topic and it's in your manifesto, which I've browsed. I haven't gone through all of it, but I've read a certain amount of it.
Yeah.
And one thing you say is that we will reduce net migration to 50,000 per annum and promote a generation-long mass immigration pause. But how would you achieve that, given that all of the parties have failed?
Well, yeah, that's a very, very good question. The country, there's no doubt at all, the country's addicted to mass immigration, open labour markets, and it has been for a long time. And again, I'm sort of wearing my red bit now. I've always been against open labour markets because it suppresses British wages, and it's not good for British workers, and it also disincentivizes training. I mean, there's no way. It all started in the EU. If you had 450 million people in a single market, why bother training anyone? Which is what happened. Companies and even our own NHS didn't bother training anyone. And to be fair, we got some very good staff. We got some very good labour imports, very, very, and particularly from Eastern Europe, Central Eastern Europe, they got some great people. But you didn't train our British workers, and I'm against that. Sorry, I'm against that. I think you should train British workers here. So I think the country is so addicted to this. And then when we left the European Union, I mean, the Tory party might well be destroyed on this, but the Boris wave was just insane. They thought, well, just, come and get us. 2023, the net migration was 860,000. Gross migration was 1.3 million. Those are those that you knew about. So this is an addiction problem, and it's like a crack addict. It is. It's like, I need bigger doses. I need bigger and bigger. So it just goes up and up. And politicians have got to be honest with the public. This can't be corrected without any adjustment. I may as well say it, pain. There'll be, labour prices could go up. Some other prices might go up as a result of that. But you can't go on like this. Your country's finished. I mean, culturally it's finished. It's very, very easy for politicians to make the case for lower migration on economics. And usually they do, and I do, on the basis I've said. But the cultural damage is just equal or worse. It's catastrophic. You're losing your country, the identity, the rootedness, who you are as a nation is at stake in this. So they've got to stop it. So my answer to your question is, we've got to deal with this. We've got to stop. You can't go on being addicted to mass immigration, or your country is finished.
Yeah, I was going to go on more to how you actually do it, but just on some of the points you've made there, that you say it's easy to make the economic case, but actually the left can't even make that case. So someone like Clive Lewis surprisingly tweeted recently about the Unite the Kingdom march and said, I understand why these people are annoyed. It's about the deracination of communities due to the excesses of the free market. Yeah. And you go, okay, but what they can never do is mention you'd think they could mention the economic side and just say, this is, as you've said, it's pushing our labour costs down and so or our wages down. Yeah. But they can't even do that, weirdly. But they definitely can't address the cultural part. But they can't even address the economic part, like the old left could have at least addressed the economic part. So I find that extraordinary. But
they may be enumerate, of course. I mean, they literally, I'm not joking. They may just completely be enumerate. I mean,
but even I can grasp that.
No. But on the backbenchers, you'd be astonished. I mean, they just, you hear it all the time when they tried to do some welfare reform, fail completely, and there were, it was backbencher after backbencher. I was thinking, where do they get these people from? What is wrong with you? To be fair, on something detailed economics, sometimes trade economics, I'm on my own usually debating it because most MPs don't know anything about it. Yeah. But on something like, do you understand that?
But undercutting wages is much more simple than complex theories in favour of protectionism. This is like an infant could understand this. An
infant could, but then a Labour backbencher couldn't. That's the. You see the trouble we're in. I don't know. They don't want to. I suppose in a way, if you're that attached to an ideology, it's like Thomas Kuhn, the philosopher of science. People don't give it up. It's discombobulates to tell them something.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence in detail reports about different categories of migration, and it gets a bit spicy. I mean, it's very difficult, but at population level, there is no doubt that different groups contribute in different ways. Some are net beneficiaries and some are net contributors. And it's in the data. And by the way, it's very predictable. It's in the data in Holland and Sweden and here and Denmark, everywhere. And if you know that and you're honest as a politician, you should say, well, yeah, actually, uncontrolled, unvetted migrant migration is catastrophic per head. It's about £500,000 per a pop. £500,000 per person through the lifetime. That's the net cost to the UK Exchequer. The really detailed work has been done by Jan van der Beek in Holland, and they nailed it because they got the data. It's about €630,000 per person for asylum and migration in Holland. So if you get a good weekend and a bit of sun, Nick, you get 1,000 people in.
Yeah,
500 million.
There was a myth for a long time it benefited the economy, but as you say,
It's an absurdity.
It's wrong, and it's very different given different groups. And we mentioned Nick Timothy; he got up in House of Commons and said, Somalians are disproportionately on social housing, but that's the kind of thing, as you say, it's spicy to say now.
Yeah. But it's still true, though.
Yeah, still true.
I always say when I'm debating people on the left, because they always brag about, we want evidence-based, we're empirical, it's got to be. And I'm saying, well, I want evidence-based policy.
Yeah, maybe not that evidence.
Maybe not. Yeah.
But on that, then, on the cultural side and the sort of controversial stuff, you say in the manifesto, immigration at the right rate and pace can make our society more skilled and vibrant. But I ask, is it just about pace? We hear this a lot. People are stunned by the pace of change. And of course they are. But isn't it also the number? In other words, should Britain be made up of predominantly native British people? Is dipping below a certain percentage of sort of native Brits a problem either in moral terms or in terms of stability?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. But you've got to ask yourself, we are where we are here. What are you going to do about it? You've had significant migration from the 40s and 50s, particularly the 50s, and you've got into sort of second and third generation, so that the society's already changed. I mean, let's cut to the chase. We've got to try and make the society we have work. Most of what I say on unsolicited illegal migration and migration policy is first level, just trying to make it not get worse. Trying to sort of have a sense of or to say in my speech, like, don't pour petrol on the fire. I mean, it's like the Sergeant Wilson question: is that terribly wise? Is it sensible to have to run gross migration of 750,000 now when we have the problems? No, it isn't. It's not sensible at all. So pull it back and try and heal the situation. Let's cut to it. In debate now, the really more difficult dividing line for policymakers and politicians is to explain what they mean when people say, I want deportations or whatever. Now, if you ask me, I mean, the famous Edgington-Farage interview.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have tripped over that, because if you're illegal, you go. I can't run a social democracy allowing people to live here illegally. I'm not so interested in the numbers. It will be a lot of people. And for me, I can't answer a question and say, well, I'm just going to give up on that part of the law. I can't, we've got family members that have foreign nationals. We did the right thing, and people have to do the right thing. I'm never going to say in any interview that I think the state should just not bother dealing with illegal migration. They must do. I'm sorry, they must do. If you run the state properly, Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore doesn't have any illegal migration, and we shouldn't. So that's my answer to that. I think on the sort of wider question, then people start saying, "Oh, I want deportations." What are you talking about? I mean, if people are talking about and get carried away and say, "Well, I want someone who isn't, white British deported," I say, "Sorry, we just part. I just can't agree with you. You can't arbitrarily turn up on someone's house and say, I'm going to take your passport off you. It's not happening. Can't happen."
Yeah, so what do people mean by deportations? We have Farage, as you said, claimed they couldn't be done. Then lately they've said, no, it's 600,000 we're going to do. Kemi Badenoch has now said 150,000 a year. Yeah, and although she's been grilled by Laura Kuenssberg on it and doesn't know quite where they'll go, seemed like a rudimentary question to me, but she said, well, probably where they came from or a third country, which doesn't really mean anything. I mean, that was the idea with Rwanda and it didn't happen, so...
Yeah, I think she's on on this category, it's a little bit easier. If someone is just here illegally and certainly if they're in the working economy and they're apprehended, Trump is proving it can be done.
Right.
So I think you can let's, for example, I don't know, it could be anywhere. Let's say, why don't we pick on South America? Let's say someone's from Chile and they're here illegally and they don't have any papers, they don't have any right to be here. You have to go back to Chile. That's it. I mean, that's not. It's in the mess we're in with illegal migration is a mess caused by the international legal architecture from the 51 Convention, the ECHR and the HRA and the rest of it. That stops you getting a border. And I'm just saying, to you, you either get rid of that legal architecture or you have a border. You can't have both. I mean, the people that know about this. The policy wonks in the think tanks tell you that.
So is that your solution then, which a lot of people have said, even Kemi Badenoch's finally said it, get out of the ECHR. You're also saying get out of the UN Refugee Convention, all of it. Yeah,
you do. You have to start again. If you want a border, if you want to control who comes here and settles here, and by the way, because of family reunion, comes here with the rest of the family and extended family, you can't do this. I mean, the West is finished. I mean, and again, I'm very reasonable. I think I'm not given to sort of hyperbole, but I'm just going to say it. The West is finished unless we get out of this stuff. You can't. It's a border and protection of your own civilization, or stay in this stuff, because you will have the number of people. We did some work on it when we devised the policy a few years ago. How many people would qualify under the 51? About 1 billion. About 1 billion people would qualify to come here and would have a valid claim. If the post-war architecture remains in place, we can't have that. Obviously, that is ludicrous. So that has to go. You have to. When Trump got in, I mean, I don't agree with Trump on everything. I'm not even sure I'd vote for him actually. But the West needed a state to say we can do it and be a nation state. Do it, and say we're just going to decide this because we're a democracy and we voted on it and we're going to do it. And all these, the present generation, the ruling class politicians are so fettered to this sort of hello clouds, hello sky progressivism that they just don't understand the reality. The future of your country is at stake if you don't have a border.
Yeah, and they've moved slightly in the mainstream media from you're evil if you talk about immigration to, well, how are you actually going to get that done? But they're still at the point of like, oh, you really want to leave the ECHR, you're Putin. So they're still there, which is and some people in the Tories still say things like that, and it will destroy our international standing. The Lib Dems, said Farage is the same as Putin. It's all very ridiculous and embarrassing. But
yeah, I think you've nailed it, because the thing that the political class and the commentariat and the civil service and the rest of them is they're worried about what people think of them. Our international standing. Well, the Australians aren't in. They're a decent democracy. We don't. Sorry, I'm not having this. It's just we've got to get over this. We're scared of what people think. I flip the question, Nick. If Britain left it, I can promise you, people all over Europe would say, "Thank the Lord, a country has proved that it can democratically decide who comes in." They would think, "Praise be."